Good afternoon. My name is Melissa Audette, and today we will be discussing the following study, Learning Using Peak Relational Training System for Children with Emotional and Behavioral Disorders. First, we'll talk about what the Peak Relational Training System is. The PEAK system is an evidence-based autism assessment and treatment guide that uses ABA practices. The goal is to go beyond traditional verbal behavior approaches, extending to lead to derived responding. There are 184 goals and objectives to the PEAK system to include requesting and labeling, number and letter recognition, and more. The design is contingency-based and follows a discrete trial format. The current study, as mentioned in the title, looks at the PEAK system and its implementation with those diagnosed with EBD, emotional and behavioral disorders. The target skills we'll be looking at are matching letters and numbers and receptively labeling letters and numbers. Jacques is a 7-year-old boy in the first grade diagnosed with a mood disorder. He is currently on an IEP and goes to a public school in New England. While he does not have any diagnosed learning disability, based on his emotional disorder, through most of his kindergarten year, he was unable to access his classroom and the curriculum. Based on that, we have found that he has many learning gaps of those core basic skills such as number recognition, matching, making requests for certain things. So our goal here was to see if the PEAK system would be able to improve these gaps. He does have an individualized learning space within the school that we access. He accesses it for both behavioral issues when he's unable to be in the classroom, and also for individualized learning when he might take some of his academics to his space to be able to focus more clearly. For this study, we had two 15-minute assessment sessions in which the instructor went in and ran through the various programs, and beyond the basics of yes, he's solid in this and no, he's not solid in this, the instructor looked specifically within each program. So within letter recognition, which letters is he able to recognize and not able to recognize, etc. Once that was identified, there were 20 15-minute learning sessions spread out over 10 days, which resulted in 2 per day, and there was 1 in the morning and 1 in the afternoon. The programs that were chosen for this were matching in a field of 3. The instructor stated match and handed the participant a flashcard. And then the other two programs, were both receptive letters and receptive numbers, in which the instructor would state, give me, point to, or touch, and then state the letter or number the participant was supposed to be touching, giving, or pointing to. While there were gaps found earlier in the pyramid, we opted for these based on A, Common Core standards, and B, knowing where the participant needed to be and what skills would really be most effective for this student at this point in getting him to excel further in the academic areas. Correct response. When there was a correct response, there was an identified reinforcer delivered with verbal praise, and a 10 was circled on the data sheet. The identified reinforcer was found through a previous preference assessment, so we knew that there was something that the participant was willing to work for. An incorrect response was an immediate corrective procedure, which resulted in a prompt or a modification, and on the data sheet, the numbers 8, 4, 2, or 0 would be circled respectively based on prompt level. What we were looking for in this study was an increase in the approximation toward correct responses for each target skill, and we saw this by the increasing score for each session. So the fewer prompts that the client needed, the higher the score was for each session. A correct response for matching was defined as the participant matching a presented letter or number with the identical letter or number. And then for the receptive labeling of letters and numbers, the correct response was defined as participant pointing to the correct letter or number in an array of 3 when provided with instruction. Inter-observer agreement was done throughout 50% of the sessions and through video recording. There was a second observer who watched the video and recorded on the data sheet, and it was then compared. The calculation was a pretty standard IOA, which was agreements plus disagreements times 100%, and in this case, agreement was found to be 100%. The results. As you can see, this first graph up here is matching numbers and letters. Second is receptively labeling letters, and the third was receptively labeling numbers. We have average score per day and then the date down here. This was a